We begin now at the top of Daf Bezam and Aleph and Meseches Taanis. This is Taanis Daf 2a. The Mishnah says, Me'emasai mazkirin gevuras geshamim. From when do we mention the might of the rain? Rashi over here explains, Me'emasai mazkirin gevuras geshamim she'omer mashav haruach umar hagashim. In other words, when do we begin to mention mashav haruach umar hagashim? With a Gemara mefarish time, I might kari le gevuros geshamim. The Gemara is going to explain why it's called the might of the rain. The reason is because it comes down, begavura comes down with might. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Osa gedolos v'gomer. That pasuk is going to be quoted in the Gemara. And the Mishnah over here continues. Rabbi Eliezer says, Miyom tov harishon shel chag. We begin saying Mashav Haruach Mar Hagashim from the first day of Yontiv of Sukkos. Rabbi Yoshua says, Miyom tov ha'achron shel chag. We begin to say it from the last day of Yontiv of Sukkos. Amar lo Rabbi Yoshua. So Rabbi Yoshua said to Rabbi Eliezer, since rain is only a curse on Sukkos, so lamahu masker, so why should he begin mentioning it on the first day of Sukkos? So Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer said back to Rabbi Yoshua, Afani lo marti lishol, I didn't say to ask for rain. Alalahazkir mashav haruach mar hagashim bo'ono. So we're just mentioning that he brings the wind and he brings down the rain in its proper time. So Amar lo, so Rabbi Yoshua said back to Rabbi Eliezer, if so, Liolam Yehei Masker, you might as well mention all the time, mention all year. If all we're saying is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings the rain at the proper time, so you should mention it all year. Why you only start mentioning it at Sukkot time? And the Mishnah continues, Ein sho'alin es hageshamim ela samach legeshamim. We only ask for rain near the rainy season. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Yehuda says, Ha'over lifnei hateva b'yom tov ha'achron shel chag. On the last day of Yontiv of Sukkot, the person who's leading the davening, so ha'achron mazkir harishon eino mazkir. The last one, meaning at the musaf, that's when we begin to mention Mashav Haruach Mar Hagashim, but we do not mention it harishon. We don't mention it at the first davening, meaning we don't mention Mashav Haruach Mar Hagashim at shacharis. B'yom tov harishon shel Pesach, and then on the first day of Yontiv of Pesach, harishon mazkir. So again at shacharis we continue. We still mention Mashav Haruach Mar Hagashim. Ha'achron eino mazkir, but at the last one, meaning at musaf already, that's when we stop saying Mashav Haruach Mar Hagashim on the first day of Yontiv of Pesach. And Rashi over here explains Siman Klola b'chag hein. Again, Rabbi Yoshua argued that rain on Sukkot is a curse. K'damrina b'Meseches Sukkot b'Perek HaYoshin me'emasai mutar lifnos mishatisrach hamikveh mashal le'eved shebo limzo kos l'rabbo v'shavach lo kitan al panav v'yamar le yafshi b'shimushech. In other words, it says over there that when it starts raining and when the porridge starts to get ruined, that's when you can leave the sukkah. And it's a mashal to a servant who pours a cup for his master, and the master throws it in his face, says, I don't want you to serve me. Kilomar kashag geshamim yordan l'sukkah. In other words, what the Gemara there is saying is that when rain comes into the sukkah, hakol yotzin, everybody leaves. V'nira she'en HaKadosh Baruch Hu chafetz shenishtamish lefanav. And it appears as though HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want the people to serve him. V'amay maschilin lahazkir. So that's why Rabbi Yoshua is saying, why should we begin to mention Gevuros geshamim b'chag? We should begin to mention the rain on Sukkos. V'nira shu mespalo sheyav matar b'chag. It looks like you're davening that you want it to rain on Sukkos, but of course we don't want it to rain when we're sitting in the sukkah. And Rashi continues that Rabbi Eliezer responds to Rabbi Yoshua, Lo amarti lishol sheyespalo ala geshamim b'chag. I'm not saying that you're davening, you're asking for rain. That's not what I'm saying. Could go in v'sein talum matar. We're not saying v'sein talum matar on Sukkos. We begin to mention on Sukkos Kavuro shall makam, the greatness or the might of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shemorid geshamim bo naso kalamar bismano, that he brings down the rain in the proper time. So then he said back, Rabbi Yoshua said back, if that's the case, why do we stop mentioning at Pesach time? We should continue to mention all year if all we're mentioning is the might of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he brings down the rain in the proper time, regardless of when the season is. And the Gemara says, Tana heicha koi de katani me'emasai. Where's the Tana picking up from, that the Tana says, from when do we start? Rashi over here says, Kilomar means the same, midiktani me'emasai. When you start off with a sentence of me'emasai, from when do we say something? Mechlal de pshita leila haytana de chayavim lahazker. Sounds like it's obvious to the Tana that we're chayav to say Mashav Haruach Mar Hagashim. Vehecha chazina de mechayav lahazker. Where do we ever see such a chayav in the first place that we know you have to say it, that we're now saying from when? That's what it means to say Tana hecha koi de katani me'emasai. Where do we see this obligation in the first place that we're now saying from when do we begin saying it? And so the Gemara says, Tana hasam kai, the Tana is going on the Mishnah over there. This is going on a Mishnah in Brachos, the Katani, because it says in Brachos, Mazkir and Gevuros Keshamim, B'tchias HaMesim, V'sholim B'berchas HaShanim, V'avdala B'chonin Hadas. It says over there in the Mishnah that we mention the rain in Tchias HaMesim, in the Brach of Atagibor. We ask for the rain in the Berchas HaShanim, that's where we say V'sein Talum Matar, and we say Havdalah in the Brach of Chonin Hadas, and again on Motzoi Shabbos, then you say Havdalah in the Brach of Chonin Hadas. So we're going on that Mishnah. We're saying on that Mishnah, from when do we begin saying this Gevuras Keshamim? So the Gemara says, "V'lisni hasam." But if that's the case, why don't we say it over there? In other words, that's in a completely different Seder of Mishnayos. Brachos is in Seder Zeraim, and here we are in Meseches Taanit. We're in Seder Moed. Ma'ishna d'shav ke'ad hacha. Why are we waiting till all the way over here to ask when we say it? And so the Gemara says, "Ella rather Tana me Rosh Hashanah salik." Really, the Tana over here is picking up off a Mishnah from Meseches Rosh Hashanah. So that already it's in the same Seder. You have Rosh Hashanah, you have here Meseches Taanit following Rosh Hashanah. That makes sense. The Tanan, because we learned the Meseches Rosh Hashanah in the Mishnah. Uvechag nidonin alamayim. It says on Sukkos we get judged for the water. Rashi over here, Rashi says, once we know that you're judged for the rain on Sukkot time, so then it's obvious that we need to mention it because we're going to need to we're going to want to daven for the rain that should come and be a bracha. And so therefore now we know from that Mishnah that we're judged on the rain, therefore it's obvious there's an obligation to say it. Once it says over there in that Mishnah that on Sukkot we're judged for the rain, so Tana me'emosai maskirin gevuras kashamim, this Mishnah is picking up off that and asking from when do we begin to mention the rain. And the Gemara continues, "V'lisni me'emosai maskirin al hageshamim." Why not just say, when do we mention rain? My gevuros geshamim. What's this word gevuros might? What is that? Why is that added to the Mishnah? So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Mipnei sheyarden begevura, because they come down with might. And we're going to learn that out from the following psukim. Shenamar, because the pasuk says, Osa gedolos arein cheker v'niflos arein misbar, uchsiv hanosein matar al pnei oretz, v'sholeach mayim al pnei chutzos. So the Gemara here quotes two psukim of Osa gedolos arein cheker and a pasuk that talks about the rain. So the Gemara says, "My mashma." What is the implication from this pasuk? There's no mention of gevura anywhere over here. So the Gemara says, "No, I'm a Rabbi Bar Shela Asya Cheker mi Briyaso Shalom." What we're doing over here is it says gedolos arein cheker, and nearby it talks about rain, and we're going to take cheker from somewhere else, and we're going to eventually connect cheker to the idea of gevura. So we're going to connect cheker now to the creation of the world. It says over here, Osa gedolos arein cheker, like we just said. And it says over there, Halo yadatim lo shamata lo keolam Hashem borei ketso sa'aretz lo yiyaf lo yiga ein cheker l'svunaso. It says, didn't you hear, don't you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world? That's the idea of creation. And ein cheker l'svunaso, you can't comprehend his understanding, his wisdom. And the pasuk also says, Meichin harim bekocho. It also talks about creation, creating the mountains. Nezer b'gvura, and he uses the word gevura over there. So in other words, by the rain it has the word cheker. Cheker connects to creation, and creation connects to gevura. So we can connect gevura to the rain. And the Gemara continues, Umanolan de v'tvila. How do you know we should mention the rain in tvila, meaning again in the Shmona Esrei, in the Amida? The Tanya, as we learned in a Brisa, Liavas Hashem Elokeichem u'lavdo b'chol levavchem. The pasuk says, love Hashem and to serve Him b'chol levavchem, with all your heart. Ezu hi avoda shi belev haviomer zet zu tefila. What service do you do with the heart? That's talking about davening. In other words, not talking about service like karbonos. It's talking about u'lavdo b'chol levavchem. You serve with your heart. It's talking about tefila. Uchsib basrei, and right after that, in the same area, what does it say? It says v'nasatim et ha'artzachem bito yoro malkosh. Talks about the rain. So you see that the rain should be mentioned in tefillah, in the avodah shebelev, in the davening. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Gimel maftechos biyado shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There are three keys that are in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shelo nimtzru biyad shliach, that they're not given over to a shliach. Ve'elu hena, they are as follows: maftech shel geshamim, the key to the rain; umaftech shel chaya, and the key to giving birth to children; umaftech shel tchias hamesim, and the key to tchias hamesim, the revival of the dead. Maftech shel geshamim, where do we see the key for rain? The pasuk says, Yiftach Hashem lecha esotzaru hatovas hashamayim loses metaartzucha bito. Again, Hashem is the one that opens up the storehouse to give the rain. You see, it's not in the hands of a shaliach. Maftech shel chaya, where do we see the maftech shel chaya? That's talking about childbirth. Minayin, from where do we see that? The pasuk says, Vayizkor Elokim es Rachel vayishma. It says Hashem listened to Rachel to give her a child. We'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Beis Amud Beis.